Billion with a B. Tenacity with a T. Do you know what it takes to build a billion-dollar organization? It takes the word that I just said, tenacity. Today, I'm going to be interviewing my friend Michael McIntyre, a guy responsible for building a $3 billion sales organization. Listen, that's a lot of commas and a lot of zeros. And frankly, one of the keys to making more money, creating a better life, and having more fun by helping more people is just to add zeros to your income. I mean, you start out in the hundreds, then you go to the thousands, then the 10,000s, 100,000s, and millions, and into the billions of dollars. And look, this here is a positive place full of insanely implementable ideas. My job is to bring in some of the best guests in the world to show you how to flat out get it done. Welcome to EdTalks Live. Hey there, my name is Ed Rush. Welcome to EdTalks Live. Yes, we have a new name for those of you who've been with us since the beginning, which feels like about 4,000 years ago. We're only 21 episodes into the show. We started off as the Bunker Bash. Now we're EdTalks Live, and here's the reason. Because we're in a bunker right now, but we're not going to be here forever. At some point, we're going to come out, hopefully sooner than later. We're going to see the light of day. You're going to get off and implement. And when we do that, I'm still going to do this show. All right? So we're going to still have the most positive place on the planet for insanely implementable ideas. And we're going to keep rolling up our sleeves. I've got some amazing guests coming up this week, which I'm going to tell you about in just a second. And in just a minute, I'm going to introduce my friend and my guest, Michael McIntyre. He's a guy who's helped some of the biggest organizations in the world. And we're going to roll up our sleeves and talk about sales strategies. Now, if selling or that word kind of makes you recoil or react, it's time to get over that. Because here's the thing. Everyone is always selling something. Listen, if you're talking to your friends about COVID-19 and you're talking to them about your opinions, you're selling your opinion. If you're talking to somebody about your service that helps them maybe have a better life, have a better mindset, have a better body, maybe you have a product or some sort of online offering, you're selling something. I mean, the fact is you're offering them a chance to get better. And really, today I want you to think about selling as nothing more than doing everything within your moral power to get your products and services in front of the people who need it most. Because if you don't, you're doing them a disservice. All right, so I'm going to introduce my special guest, but before I do that, you are in EdTalks Live. This is billion-dollar sales strategies. By the way, by popular demand, tomorrow's episode is a continuation of what we talked about yesterday, how to stop trading dollars for hours and start getting paid what you're worth. On Thursday, I've got a really special show. My friend Kevin Freeman, the host of a television show called Economic War Room, is coming in to talk about the coming economic war and how to win it. Kevin's a guy that briefs Congress on the economic threat around the world. I went and visited Kevin when he was briefing the House of Representatives on the subject of China. Kind of an interesting topic nowadays. And then, of course, on Friday, Ask Me Anything. Come join us. Open Q&A with me as we wrap up our week on Friday. All right, so let's get into the topic at hand. Before I do that, I want to say hello to you in chat. If you haven't logged in, jump into chat on the right-hand side. Say who you are, where you're from, what you do. If you're on Facebook, that's right below you. Same on Periscope. I just want to say hello to some of my friends. Hello, Denise. Welcome. I'm excited to hear today's guest, too. Hello, Cherie. I saw Terry as well from Yorktown, Virginia, where the world turned upside down. If you haven't watched Hamilton, that's where that all happened, baby. What's up, Barry? Good to see you, buddy. Dennis, my man, from beautiful Oregon. Dennis, you got some new information products that you can get into. You probably started yesterday, man. I love it. Good morning, Aubrey from San Diego. Welcome, welcome. Hello, Cecilia. Welcome to the show. John, my man from Britain. I think it's about 6 o'clock there, and it appears your prime minister is recovering nicely. Javier, welcome to the show. This is the Bunker Bash, silly. We just changed the name to protect the innocent. All right, Robert, and by the way, I mentioned the why earlier in the show, just rewind. Good morning, Diana. The air is alive with the birds singing and the bees buzzing. Jill, welcome to the show. Matt Head, my man from Oregon. Welcome, Mark. Good to see you from Illinois, my man. And my friend R.H. McLean from Colorado Springs, where the snow is melting. All right, so I'm going to bring my friend Michael onto the show, and I'm just going to do a short background, and then we're going to get into the training today. Michael McIntyre built a $3 billion with a B, sales organization. Like I said, that's a lot of commas and a lot of zeros. Since then, he's transitioned to coaching and advising some of the biggest brands in the world and some of the most influential people in the world. It was a quote just recently from a guy named Jerry Jones. You probably recognize Jerry Jones, the owner of the Cowboys, who said about Michael, "I believe the saying, you can't teach what you don't know, and you can't lead where you won't go. When it comes to selling, Michael can teach and lead for all day long." Michael McIntyre from Dallas, Texas. What's up, my man? Welcome to EdTalks Live. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you, Ed. So pleased to be on here. And what a great intro, man. I like that.
Hey, it's good to have you. So I want you to take us back to the wild days when you were building a sales organization. Tell us the story a little bit, because I want to get into the idea of tenacity and what it takes to build that kind of book of sales.
Yeah. So I went into the Air Force really young. 17 years old. That my parents didn't have the money to send me to college, so I figured I'd let Uncle Sam support 75% of that. So I joined the United States Air Force, spent 4 years in the Strategic Air Command. I know you've got a military background too. And so during that time, I got my college education while I was there. And I got out of the Air Force and I was eager. I got my degree. I headed to Dallas, Texas. And I really enjoyed the can-do spirit of Dallas, Texas. And I was working at a high-end clothing store, and I got into the insurance business. Somebody recruited me and said, "Do you want to make some money?" I was like, "Yes, I do. Show me the money." And so I got into it. I started selling, and it was a natural fit for me. And in that process, I learned, because I always had a strong work ethic. I was raised with a family with a strong work ethic, and plus the Air Force. And getting into that sales, I learned that you just have to work, man, that 4-letter word. And it really helped me a lot. And I was very successful at a very young age. And within 10 years, I had started my own insurance company agency. And so it was in I believe it was about 1987, 1988, I started, and then really launched it out in 1994. And in 1993, 94, and what I did is I first of all wanted to make something that would be easy for anybody to do, because I think you have to bring it down to the lowest common denominator, because I was in mass marketing. And what we did is developed a system, some people call it a new mousetrap, if you will. And we brought that out, and we mastered this program in the insurance industry. And I made it really simple. And we recruited over 20,000 sales reps and trained them and produced over $3 billion worth of sales doing this simple system. And what I found is a lot of people want to make things very complicated. And we had a system that's called KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And I know a lot of people have heard that, but it really works when you just keep things simple. And so during that period of our growth, our massive growth, we started out in Texas, then we advanced, and within 5 years, we had 40 offices across the country in 40 different states. And we were really generating, about $20 million a week in revenue. And so it was, we had some tough times too. We went through a lot. We had a rapid growth, but the main thing that we taught people is that you've got to use the numbers on your side. Like you said in the beginning, everybody's in sales, right? And so we would bring in people that maybe had never sold before, but they had a work ethic. And so we taught them that, and it was very, very successful.
So when you take somebody into your sales organization who's never sold before, where do you start? What's the training package that you start with? You said it was simple. Mm-hmm. So what do you start with? Here's how to ask for the sale, or here's how to speak in benefits. What's the start?
It's a great question. What we did is, first of all, you've got to have leads, okay? Leads are everything. You have to have leads. And nobody likes to prospect. Even the very best salespeople in the world hate prospecting because it's all about rejection. Nobody likes rejection. And anybody that tells you they like rejection, they are lying, because nobody likes it. So what we wanted to do is we call them rock stars. We said, listen, we want to have you come in. If you got a strong work ethic if you can speak to people, if you're not afraid to approach people and ask for an order, we're going to set you up like Bono. We're going to put you in the house 3 times a day, and we're going to have, all you have to do is walk in and perform. And so when we did massive direct mailing, which we spent $6 million a year just on postage. But what we did is we had a call center that would preset and pre-qualify their appointments. So a salesperson that had good work ethic and could read, we would put them in the house 3 times a day. And what that did, Ed, is it gave them the advantage of the law of numbers. Because if you have the law of numbers on your side, you're going to sell. Somebody's going to buy something from you if you've got a good product.
Yeah, I mean, so let's start on leads. This is actually interesting. I was reading a blog from, I think it was Tim Ferriss recently, I think it was a Twitter post, and Tim said, for those of you who want to have 1 million followers, it's important to ask yourself if you want what comes with 1 million followers. In other words, you know, every time you attract a group of people, you also can attract some wrong people along the way. And I said this on the show about 2 shows ago, but about 10% of the people in the world are idiots. And I think that might even be a little conservative, but there are bad people with bad attitudes. And I'll just tell you, this weekend, my team and I did a little marketing test. We generated actually 800 leads in 2 days using this little trick on Instagram, which was great. But with that came 2 or 3 people who frankly decided to be negative about a whole bunch of stuff. Now, I can't figure out why somebody would be negative about positive teaching content in today's world, but then again, everybody's got their own vote, and everybody with a computer has the ability to say whatever they want to. So let's talk about this idea of rejection, because you're bringing people into your sales organization with the idea that they're going to make money and potentially make a lot of money. So they've got a benefit ahead of them. But nonetheless, they're going to get a bunch of people who are going to say no. They're going to get a bunch of people who are going to ignore them. And then worse, they're going to get a bunch of people that are going to be negative towards them. How did you help people get over that?
Yeah, it's a great question. What we did is, we taught the law of numbers. So my early days on, I couldn't understand why everybody didn't buy the product. I was hook, line, and sinker. I loved the product. And I had a lot of enthusiasm, fire within my belly. And so that helped me sell a lot. But what I had a mentor that said, listen, McIntyre, what you need to do is, if you see 10 people, he said, this is back in the 80s, he said, how much money do you want to make a week? I said, $2,500 a week. And that was like tons of money back then. And so he said, okay, so how many people do you have to see? I said, I need to give 10 presentations a week. He said, then after each presentation, whether you make a sale or not, then in your mind's eye, when you shake that person's hand, you think that you just made $250. Period. And don't worry about the sale. The sales will come, but you have to shake that hand 10 times to get to that 2,500 goal. Some people, that might happen the first sale, might happen the last, it might happen 4 or 5 different times in there. But then with that knowledge, because that way it takes the pressure off the average person, the salesperson, that they have to close everybody every time they see them, which is just ludicrous. You don't have to. But then what we developed is what I call the 5-point close. And that helped everybody, because look, rejection is going to come. If a salesperson comes in there and you make a sales presentation and you get no objections, man, you're not going to make a sale. As soon as you get an objection, you need to thank God you got that objection, because now you just made a sale, but you have to slow down and walk through that process to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, the last person you want to talk to is a zombie. So a lot of times, if you, like Michael's saying, if you get somebody who you do your discussion and they don't do anything, that means they're just apathetic about their life, or they're not going to move forward. An objection, by the way, is frankly, it's nothing more than a question. It's like somebody asking you, have you done this before? Or how do you know it will work? Or can I go talk to my spouse about it? Or let me think about that. Those are just common ways that people push back a little bit, and that's a nice opportunity for you to engage with them, answer their question, and move the sale along. By the way, if you just joined us, this is EdTalks Live. I'm here with my friend, Michael McIntyre. We're talking about billion-dollar sales strategy. Michael, we just had some folks join us in chat, so I want to just say hello to some, and I think a couple of these are your friends. This is Charlie from Bozeman. What's up? David Zetz. Boom, EdTalks. Let's do it. This is Becky Leathers. She says hello from St. Louis. Hey, nobody likes rejection. Michael, you're a rock star. I can't disagree with that one. Amanda Penn Warden. Hello from Dallas. That's my coach, she says. Hey, we're going to get into some of the discussion about coaching because Michael transitioned from the sales world into the coaching and training world. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I want to get into this idea of the 5-point close. Let me just welcome anyone who's just joined us. If you did, this is $1 Billion Sales Strategies. My name's Ed Rush, former F-18 fighter pilot and 5-time #1 best-selling author. I'm here with my friend and my guest, Michael McIntyre. I sat right in that room with you, by the way, dude, like about 6 months ago having your Turkish coffee. Did you have your coffee this morning, dude?
Oh, man, you know I did. I had at least a half a pot, baby. Come on, we gotta light the cone of this rocket.
I got my cold brew in my Abraham Lincoln mug, and the mug says, "Government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth." And I dropped this mug within about a week of getting it, and it cracked, and all the top chipped. And I kept it because it reminds me, even though our constitutional republic has been broken a few times, it's still in good shape.
Amen, bro. That's awesome. That's
And
awesome.
that, by the way, if you're watching this on a recording, Michael and I are doing this interview right in the middle of coronavirus lockdown time, baby. And some of us are wondering if we're going to have a constitution by the time we get done with this. I saw this great picture. I should have grabbed it, but it was a picture of the founding fathers writing the Constitution, and above it, a thought bubble. Michael said, one of the founding fathers' thought bubble, it said, "Just so you know, all this goes out the window if there's a virus." So I thought that was like, I thought that was perfect. Anyway, so if you just joined us, please jump in on YouTube. The chat is right to your right. Or if you're on Facebook, just below, please say hello in the comment section. And by the way, if you like getting great positive content and you're interested in this as an environment, we do this every day, Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern. This is a show called EdTalks Live, and it is designed to be the most positive place on the planet for insanely implementable ideas. If you're a veteran, you've been here before, click that like button. That tells the rest of the world that Facebook and YouTube should give you this content. We are in the middle of $1 Billion Sales Strategies. My name's Ed Rush. I'm here with my guest, Michael McIntyre. Michael, you got my mind moving. You said you have a 5-point close. I'm like, man, that sounds like the kind of thing I need to learn. So what's the 5-point close?
Well, it's revolutionary, but it's not. And let me explain. Look,
it's simple, like you said. Keep it simple, stupid. You said,
simple, baby, kiss. So, once you get an objection, that's the best sound you could get. Well, people say, well, McIntyre, how do you overcome those objections? Listen, we all overcome objection. I asked people, how many of y'all are married? And they, most people are married. Some people aren't, but you've overcome objections when you're married, right? You learn about that. Your children are master at overcoming objections, right? In fact, they just walk right past you on that sort of thing. So, but when you're in sales, when you're in direct sales, or even just in life in general, so I call it the 5-point close. The very first thing that's so important that most salespeople miss, and most anybody misses. You don't have to be a salespeople. You could be an engineer. You could be a teacher. You can be a pastor. You can be an executive. You can be a CPA. Whatever, But the very first thing is people get really. They get their nose out of joint when they hear an objection, because now they're thinking that's a rejection of them, and it's truly not. What it is like you said, they're asking for more information. So if they say, listen, McIntyre, this is just way too much money, the first thing I do, I agree with you. Always agree with the objection. Always. I don't care how insane the objection is. Always agree with it. You're so right. It's so crazy expensive. And they're kind of shocked at that point. And look, when we're speaking to people, even right now, most people only hear 17 seconds out of 60 seconds of what I'm saying, because they're thinking about other things, right? We all are ADD to an extent, and especially with social media, it just increases it. So as soon as you agree with their objection, that opens up that window for about 17 seconds for you to jump through. And so once you agree with that objection, now you overcome the objection. Look, I know it's too much money, but boom, overcome your objection. The money's not your problem, Bill. It's the solution to your problem. So you agree with it, you overcome the objection. The third thing you want to do is you want to give them a strong selling point. And if you know your business, if you know your argument, if you know anything about what you're doing, that should be easy. You should have a dozen strong selling points. So that at that point, the third time, you insert your strong selling point. That gives them something to give a new idea. That gives them a reason to say yes to a new idea. And the fourth thing you do is create a sense of urgency. 3-letter word that's so powerful that you see it all the time and you don't even realize it. Now, N-O-W. It's a powerful word. Let's do this now. Okay. And so you agree with the objection, you overcome the objection, give a strong selling point, create a sense of urgency. Look, Mrs. Jones, here's what we need to do. Look, Bill, what is great for you right now, okay, is just to stick your foot into the water to test the temperature. You can add more later. You can do whatever it is, or whatever that sense of urgency, but you must create a sense of urgency. The fifth thing you have to do, and this is what separates the wheat from the chaff. Okay, this is what separates from being a timid salesman and having skinny kids to a closer with money in the bank and bills paid. You got to ask for the order. The fifth thing you got to do is ask for the order, and that's real simple. Would you like this in blue, or would red be better? That's the alternate close. And there's a dozen closes out there. What's your middle initial? Do you want this mailed to your office? Do you want it mailed to your home? Whatever their answer is, you don't really care. But whatever their answer is that means they're bought, they're sold. And here's the beautiful thing, Ed, real quick about the 5-point close. If you get down to the fifth point, the fifth close, and you ask for the order, and they say, well, I really need to talk to my hairdresser. Or, I really have to look at my horoscope. Or, I really got to pray about this. I get it. And so you go right back up to the first one. I agree with that. Then you go right through, and you do this 5 times. And you're never going to make them mad because you're always agreeing with them. And if you can't close them in the 5th time, then you can't close them ever. But
that's good.
If you use the 5-point close and you master it, you're going to increase your sales closing ability by a minimum of 50% qualified applicants.
This is great. This is so great. By the way, I'm going to summarize this. What I wrote down: first one, agree. Second one, overcome. The third one is insert your strong selling point. The fourth one is add in urgency, and the fifth one is ask for the sale. Did I get that right?
Yes, you nailed it.
Boom. By the way, this is awesome.
Will be, Ed.
What's that?
You're the best.
Oh man, I'm just studying to be the best. So this is good. This is really good. I've been teaching sales stuff, by the way, for about 5 years, and I've not heard it put into this format. What I used to do, I really like this. What I used to do, if somebody would say something back to me, even if I didn't agree with it, by the way, I would always say, that's good, that's good, that's really good. That's how I would. So for example, when I used to do internet service-based work. Don't do that anymore. But I used to offer internet service to attorneys, and they would go, man, I've signed up with groups before and organizations, and I've tried this over and over again, and it didn't work. And I would go, man, that's good. That is really good. You know why? Because you and I are still talking about it. And I just want to tell you, I just admire your tenacity in sticking with this. The great news is you found out what doesn't work. Now let's talk about what does work. So it's like that. It's exactly what you just said there, to take it and not go, well, you picked the wrong people, but just agree with them and then move on. I really, really like that. Yeah. And by the way, as you're listening, there's 100 different ways to ask. There's 1,000 different ways to ask. I mean, one of the ways I teach consultants at the end of the thing is to go, so, you ready to get started working together? That's asking. Because then people can say yes, they can say no, or they can say, I don't know, let me ask my wife, or like Michael just said, let me ask my hairdresser.
I've had that objection before.
I thought, have you really?
Yes.
You had somebody ask, I just got to go cast my hair. I did have one person, one out of the thousands who did say that they had a psychic friend that they had to ask all their things through. But they ended up signing up with me, which means, so the psychic friend, I guess, was on board with the program. Some great comments in chat, by the way. David Zetz, my man, says, last night, for the first time, I decided to promote an Instagram post. So far, I've spent $1.17. Woke up this morning with 5 leads and now 5 sales calls booked. Boom. I like it a lot. Judy says, I've been wondering what happened to that mug. I'm going to give you a close-up, Judy, of this thing. Hold on a second. This is the broken Abraham Lincoln mug. And the whole thing, by the way, government of the people, by the people, for the people. I think we're forgetting some of those prepositions right now. Just so you know, I think some of our leaders have forgotten the for part. All right? No names and faces, but I'm going to just tell you. Ben says, this rocks today with the bank process. We understand why. Tony Robbins said, let your prospects determine your presentation. The bank programs helps people do that. I love it, man. Let's see if I got any other. Yes. Oh, man. There's our movie right there. If you haven't seen, what is that? Glenn Ross?
Yeah.
Coffee is for closers. All right. So
always ABC, always be closing.
Always be closing, always be closing. All right. I am here. By the way, let's, for those of you who just joined us, by the way, my name is Ed Rush, former F-18 fighter pilot, 5-time #1 best-selling author, the host of EdTalks Live. I'm here with my friend, Michael McIntyre, and I mean it when I say my friend. We just had breakfast in Dallas. We had breakfast in Dallas like a day before California got locked down, man. That was, it was a month ago, dude. It was a month ago, and it feels like 4,000 years ago.
I know.
I did an event in Dallas. We were supposed to have 150 people there. We had 50 hard-charging go-getters at that event, and anyway, it was awesome. So let's get into just a couple more of the billion-dollar sales strategy. So 2 ways to make $1 billion: make one sale for $1 billion, or make, you know, 1 billion sales for $1. How did you build that organization out so that you made that much money? I mean, you talked about building out your sales force. How did you build it out so that you were generating that much?
Yeah, it's a good question. What we always did is we established relationships. Relationships were so important, and we were spending a tremendous amount of money on prospects, on direct mail leads, on telemarketing, setting appointments. So we went out there and we found other people that wanted to invest with us to do that. And you know, it's real important in any kind of business that you establish a relationship. Everybody looks at the bottom line, of course, but what really matters is what integrity you have, what kind of relationship you have with that company or with that vendor, and if you're going to deliver. Talkers talk and doers do. So many people go out there and overpromise and always fall short. And not always, but most of the time they fall short. So if you're going to do something, you just got to do it. It's called circumstances happen. And we all have circumstances, but how big is your commitment? And I refer to this a lot of times with the analogy of a breakfast. And breakfast is all about commitment. And if you look at the average breakfast, you've got ham and you've got eggs, right? And so the chicken had something to do with that breakfast, really did. But the pig was all in. The pig was always already committed, 100%. So that's what separates people from making, you know, $10,000 a week or $100,000 a week or bringing in $1 billion business is your level of commitment. Are you a chicken or are you a pig?
How do you help people get over rejection? So I'll give you an anecdote. There's a guy that I know who, for lack of a better term, is on the spectrum somewhere and is one of the best salespeople I know because he literally has no concept of someone who doesn't like him. It's the strangest thing. I mean, somebody could be in his face saying bad things about him and he'll just be like, and then he'll move on and it doesn't even affect him. But most people it affects. So how do you teach a salesperson to be tenacious through all the adversity, through all the rejection, through all the no's, and frankly, through all the negativity?
Yeah, it's great. So you got to keep your eye on the prize, and you cannot allow people to control your emotions or give them that authority to do so. And when people reject whatever you're selling, they're generally not rejecting you, although we put that on ourselves. Sometimes a weak person will say, well, they said no to the sale, so they didn't like the way I looked, the way I talked, or the way I dressed, or my accent, or my name, or my faith, or whatever. And truly, it's not about that. It's about them. When they reject your product or your presentation, it's generally about them. And whatever it is, maybe you triggered something for that, but you've got to develop thicker skin. You really do. And you have to really have yourself positive affirmations constantly. I talk about that in my coaching. You need to have positive affirmations. A study was recently done. 80% of our self-talk is negative. I can't afford this. I don't look good in this. I'm too heavy. My hair doesn't do right, or nobody loves me. I'm disappointing. I'm always disappointing. that is negative self-talk. And when that negative self-talk happens, it attracts that negativity and rejection. You've got to constantly be putting positive things in your mind. I'm a Christian, so I like to use scripture, but also you can use positive things. Just like, hey, I'm worthy to be who I am. I attract large amounts of money of who I am and how I go about doing these things. So in rejection, they're going to come. It's going to come. Just expect it, but don't let it overcome you. Don't give away that authority to have it bother you.
This is really good. I'm going to ask you in a moment just some tools regarding mindset, but I want to anchor in on something that you just said. By the way, Michael and I come from the same faith tradition, so we believe in the same things. And I'll tell you, there's a verse that I wrote in my book, 21 Day Miracle, because it was important to me thinking through body issues. I noticed there was a time when I would be walking by the mirror, and as I walked by the mirror, I would catch myself go by on the side, and I caught myself making this sound. Oh, okay. And I realized I had been doing that for like 30 or 40 years. And so one day I was flipping through an old photo album and I saw a picture of myself when I was 17 years old with my shirt off. And I was like, hey, that guy's in pretty good shape. And then I realized it was me. It took me a second to realize that was me. And then I remembered when I was 17 that I used to walk by the mirror and go, oh, and make that noise. So in the book, I talk about how I transitioned to using a phrase called, I am fearfully and wonderfully made, which comes out of the Psalms. It's Psalm 139. David said that about himself. And I thought, it's funny because people from faith traditions like ours, we're Christians, we're the worst at that. And we should be the best at that. Like if you have a belief that God loves you and thinks you're amazing, you should feel loved and feel amazing. And so talk about that for a minute. Talk about the way that we talk to ourselves and how you encourage the people that you coach and you work with to talk to themselves differently.
Yeah. So a lot of times people, especially if they have a poverty mindset, listen, I've known, wealthy people and I've fallen into that trap too. Once I made my first $1 million, I started getting really paranoid. And I don't know why, but, maybe it was just, the more money you make, the more paranoid you get. So I had to get off that. I had to really do that. I had to really buckle down and say, okay, what I want to do is I want to help other people. A mentor of mine, Zig Ziglar, you might have heard of him. He said, listen, the more people that you help get what they want, the more you'll get what you want. And Zig really taught me that. And I was really fortunate to meet with Zig and to say, okay, I'm going to go out here and I'm going to help other people. I'm going to focus out on how I can help people get what they want. And once I did that, once I truly focused on that and focused on them and helping them, then it seemed like all my issues went away, my paranoia went away, and money even flowed even bigger and stronger and faster.
Yeah, so think about that as you're watching this. The word you, and when I say you, I mean singular, second person singular, the word you is the most powerful word, in my opinion, in the English language. And I do a lot of website reviews. People send me their website who are coaching members, and I start looking through them. And the number one problem on websites is people talk about themselves. Nobody wants to hear about you. They want to hear about themselves. Everybody wants to listen to their favorite radio station, WIIFM, What's in It for Me, which, by the way, is something that you can add into your selling scripts. It's just like this. If you hear yourself talking about yourself, stop and go, you know what? Here's what this means to you. Just stop and say, here's what this means to you. All right, so I want to catch up on chat. Some awesome comments, by the way. Ben Farmer says, Ed, if you never promote, you never prosper. Man, is that ever right. Delisa, the website, by the way, is edrush.com/edtalkslive. You can also go to edtalkslive.com if you want to join us on the daily show. Ryan, who must be from Texas, that little symbol there confuses me, Ryan, though. That looks like Texas, but it also looks like Canada. So I don't know which one it is. Maybe he lives in Texas, but if our freedoms keep going away, he's going to move to Canada. I don't know. I think it's the other way. Maybe it's the other way. Maybe he's moving from Canada because of that. Anyway, Ryan says, Mac Daddy is the real deal. I think that's you, dude. So much knowledge and wisdom. I love it. Russ, from Colorado Springs, we were really big in our marriage ministry and teaching identity. in Christ. Changes everything when you know who you are in relation to your Heavenly Father. Man, I love that. David says, my number one rule in basketball, officiating, and sales, take nothing personally ever. You know, it's funny, Michael, my dad, David is here because I have another program that he's in where I work with my dad, who's a basketball referee. I grew up in an environment where I watched 1,000 basketball games, professional basketball. My dad was a professional basketball referee. I watched 1,000 games, and at least once, probably about 20 times during those 1,000 games, I got to watch somebody right near me yelling at my dad at the top of his lungs. So I guess I learned immunity to criticism early on by just watching. In fact, I almost at some point felt like it was a badge of honor when my dad got yelled at. You know, it was kind of interesting. So, all right, well, let's get cranking into some of the stuff that you're up to now. By the way, if you just joined us, this is $1 Billion Sales Strategies. My name is Ed Rush. I'm here with my friend Michael McIntyre. If you're looking for a positive place full of insanely implementable ideas, this show airs every day, Monday through Friday, right now during the lockdown. I don't know what you want to call it. And the goal is to do 90 shows, by the way. So please come and join us. We got some great people coming in tomorrow. I'm going to be teaching how to stop trading hours for dollars and start getting paid with your worth on Thursday. By the way, Michael, this is Kevin is from Dallas. You guys should get together. You have a lot in common. Kevin Freeman, guest of Economic War Room. We're going to talk about the coming economic war, and then on Friday, Ask Me Anything. Kevin Freeman, I'm going to tell you the story on Thursday when you're here on the show. But Kevin, Michael, one day I was in D.C. and I texted Kevin out of the blue. I said, "Hey man, hope you're doing okay." And he said, "I'm in D.C. right now." I said, "Well, I'm in D.C." And he goes, "Well, I'm briefing Congress today. Do you want to come over?" And I'm like, was that like a trick question or something? Like, yeah, I want to come over and see you brief Congress.
Absolutely.
So I got to see him talk about China a year ago, actually, interestingly enough. So, all right, so let's rock and roll into some of the things you're doing now. This, by the way, is $1 Billion Sales Strategies. My name's Ed Rush. I'm here with my guest, Michael McIntyre, sales master. So you transitioned, sold a company. You transitioned into advising, coaching, consulting, helping other people break out of their mold and accomplish great things. How did you make that transition?
Yeah, it was really interesting because I sold my company in 2007, and it was, we were going pretty fast all the time. I mean, we had, it was a big company, and so when I did sell it, it kind of really was when you had 400 people working for you in the office, and you had just going all over the place. And then when it came to a sudden stop, it was kind of strange. It really was. And so it was a transition period for me. And during that transition period, I started getting calls and say, "Hey, listen, I need some help here. I need some help there," which I did. And then somebody said, "You need to write a book." So I did. I wrote a book called The Authentic Salesman. And listen, it was the #1 on Amazon's most, people that can't go to sleep. And so, but no, it was successful in its own right. But what I did is from that, I started going out and doing speaking and speaking engagements and consulting. But what I really enjoyed doing, which is fine, and I like doing that, but what I really wanted to transition into is kind of coaching, if you will, or mentoring. And so we really kind of developed this thing called McIntyre, which we did, and we developed it, and we're launching it out, and we've been having a lot of fun. One of the things too I want to say is in this process when I'm coaching people, a lot of times I get a lot of people who are entrepreneurs or people who are business owners. I had one guy that had a $132 billion bank. He was one of the C-level people, and he just wanted to transition out of that into a different life. He was ready to retire, but wanted to go through that, which was really interesting. And I've had other people start up and do that. Listen, I've got this brilliant idea that I want to bring out. And what I tell young entrepreneurs, or any entrepreneur, in fact, because one of the biggest things that I hear a lot is, "Man, I got to have more money. I got to have more money." And I tell them the worst thing an entrepreneur can have is money. And I tell you that because after I sold my company, I had a lot of cash. And the first thing I did is I started, because as a successful entrepreneur, sometimes we have too much of an ego. And so I thought I could go out there and just start this other company. And I spent $250,000 in 1 month on TV ads, and my ROI stand back was $1,500. And I wish I had somebody back then say, McIntyre, don't do that. You got too much cash to work with. And so, in coaching entrepreneurs, which I love to do, and business people, and in everyday life people that look, you don't have to go out there and conquer the world today. And also, you don't need to wait for all the lights to be green. Sometimes you need to run a red light, metaphorically.
So it's easier to ask forgiveness than it is permission sometimes.
Amen, brother. Come on.
It's interesting what you just said about it's dangerous for entrepreneurs to have money. And I want to pause for a moment, just kind of anchor in on this, because there's the topic of hunger, like really, really being driven and having just that tenacity to go after it. What I learned, and by the way, what I'm going to describe to you is completely dysfunctional. I'm not recommending this. I'm just showing you a process of evaluation and self-observation and what I did. But I want to ask you a question at the end of this little self-reveal. So when I started out in business, much like anyone in business, you have these big booms and then bust, and then booms and then bust. And I would do events, and I've sold some of these stories before. I do events, like one of my very first times speaking and offering something, I sold like $177,000 worth of something. It blew my mind to have that much money. And what I started to realize in these cycles, up and down, is when I had money, like when I logged into my bank account at Chase, and there was a lot of money in there, I would start to, I would take a deep breath and I would start to feel a little complacent. And then when I didn't, when that number got to a certain point where I'm like, oh man, I need to be able to pay my bills, I kicked it into gear, And so what I started doing, this is the dysfunctional part, what I started doing is as soon as I had money in the bank account, I would take large sums of it and dump it into pay off my mortgage, put it into an IRA, or literally I would get rid of it not get rid of it but I would take it out of someplace I couldn't get to it, essentially, because it would keep the drive going. Now, the truth is I've learned how to, do that without the dysfunction. But how important is it for the entrepreneurs that you work with to create systems in their life that create drive? Like I'll give you an example of something that you do, Michael. I'm going to share my screen with you really quickly because I started doing this week or last week because I was talking to Michael and he said, you should probably, hang on a second, let me see if I can get this. Oh, there you go. So that's my clock. That's 5:59, baby, right there. And so you have some kind of crazy way of looking at the waking up in the world situation. And he said, every time I wake up, the first number's got to say 5 or something.
Gotta have a 5 handle.
Part of what is that part of what you do to keep your drive alive?
Yeah, so we started the 5 handle club. And look, when I coach people, one of the first things I do is tell me your day. What's your day look like? I don't care if it's a C-level person, entrepreneur, pastor, or a retired person. I want to know what your day looks like. And a lot of people, especially millennials between 25 and 40, they say, I get up is club. The club is really simple because what it allows you to do is if you own your morning, you're going to own your day. And a lot of people really have issues with.
Hang on, Michael, real quick. Your internet is just kind of skipping there for a second. So I'm going to come back to you in just a second, and I want to bring that question back all the way back to the very beginning. Are you good, man? Can you hear me okay?
I'm solid.
All right, great. So here we go. Let's do that one more time because what I'll do is just to get a nice clean recording at the end of this, I'll just cut that whole part out of this. So, hey, if you got to see it live, man, you got extra. And by the way, in about 7 minutes, I'm going to open it up for live Q&A, your chance to ask my man, Michael McIntyre, any question you want on any topic. I would make it about sales if I was you. The way to do that is to type into chat the word question and then a little semicolon and then ask your question. All right? So,
gotcha.
If you just joined us, my name's Ed Rush. I'm here with my friend Michael McIntyre. We're talking about billion-dollar sales strategies. This is a guy who built a $3 billion sales organization, but we're talking about personal habits. So take me to 5 o'clock in the morning. And why in the world am I waking up so early?
Because you want to own your morning, Ed. If you own your morning, baby, you own the day, right? So in the 5 handle club, and we started this thing. We do it once a month. In fact, we have it starting May 4th. If you want to join us on a free 5-day coaching, we have this thing coming May 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. Just go to www.the5handle.com and you can join. And so we give away 5 days of free coaching on that 5-handle club, and it's really cool. My wife and my daughter, we get on there. But what it does, what the 5-handle does, is it allows you to really own your day. Because if you sit there and sleep till 6:30, 7:30, some of the days by you, money's moving all the time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Okay, so if you want to be moving, if you want to if you want to soar with the Eagles, then you need to get up. You need to get up and get going and have your day start. Whether it's 5 a.m. or 5:59 a.m., like Ed gets every 59 minutes out of that deal. But that's where you can soar with the Eagles rather than flocking with the turkeys, because the turkeys are going to sleep in at 7:30, 8, 9 o'clock. Come on, that's not good. If you want to go out there and make a difference, if you want to get ahead of the game, you've got to get up and get going. And what I tell people too, we have an acceleration course coming up. I said, listen, $100,000 a year is the new minimum wage. If you out there, you need to hit $250,000 to make a serious dent. And if you want to be a world changer, and if you want to make a legacy for your family, and do the things that you want to do, because $100,000 a year is not going to get it done. Back in the 80s and early 90s, that sounded really good. $100,000 was like, I'm in. But nowadays it's $250,000. So you've got to get up earlier. You got to stay out longer, and that also you got to go to bed with a 10-handle. Okay, so that means you don't stay up till 1 o'clock, because you can't be stupid. You got to go get your rest. You need 6-7 hours of sleep. You need to drink a lot of water. You need to take care of yourself, and you need to get your butt out of bed at 5-handle.
That's awesome, man. By the way, the website's below, themichaelmcintyre.com. I was going to try to do that with a Scottish accent. McIntyre. My Scottish accent sounds more like one of the giants from the BFG, I think, if I had to do it right. But the website is below. Go there and check out Michael McIntyre. Dude, I had a nice golf trip to Scotland last year.
Scotland's beautiful. We got to go there, and it was great. And I was just afraid that I would get there and get off the plane, and I'd have somebody say, "Hey, your great-great-great-grandfather owes me some money."
Yeah. But my family went to Scotland 2 years ago. Last year, I took all my coaching clients, and when we went to Scotland, we went out. I mean, hours away from any kind of city, on this beautiful loch, which basically I found out means lake. Right. Boy, did we have a good time. Drank some good whiskey, had a little bit of a mastermind, played a little golf. And I miss it, man. When this whole coronavirus thing came down, I told my wife, I'm like, we should probably book some tickets to Scotland, because we're going to get stuck someplace.
We went to the ski boat castle up there at the Carnegie place, and right there on the North Sea, and it was fantastic.
Pretty awesome. All right, so we're going to do a little bit of open Q&A with my man, Michael McIntyre. You ready for that, dude?
Yes, bring it.
All right, let's do it. I've got one. Oh, Diana, thank you for that comment. 4:30 a.m. Magic morning meditation to start my day. And by the way, one of these days I'm going to do a little talk on morning routine. I usually ask my guests about what they do or what their routine is, and I get everything from everybody. There was a time for about 1.5 years where I woke up with no alarm. Literally, I would wake up when I woke up. I would go to sleep, and if I woke up at 5, I got up. If I woke up at 7:30, I got up. So there's a lot of different ways to go about your morning routine. I like Michael's idea. It's got to say 5 on the clock for me. And so the way that I do things is 21-day sprints. Right now I'm in the middle of a 21-day sprint. I'm waking up at 5:59 because he said it could be 5 anything.
That's right.
He said it could be 5 anything. So I set my alarm at 5:58 because my rule is my feet have to be on the ground by 6. So anyway, so that's 5:58. All right, so any kind of questions you have, I have 2 questions in here. Let's start with this. I have a question from Charlie Dingham. Hello, by the way. You are here watching $1 Billion Sales Strategies. My name is Ed Rush. I'm here with my guest, Michael McIntyre on EdTalks. We're here Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern. First question comes in from Charlie, who says, What are your top 5 questions when engaging a new prospect? So maybe just take us to you don't have to do 5, but tell us your top questions when you're engaging with a new prospect.
Great. Thank you for that, Charlie. Yeah. So generally what I like to do is there's a warm up involved, right? You don't just come in and immediately ask for the order. So you have to warm up. You got to see where they're at. I kind of like to find out, what stage are they in? And one of the questions I'll have is, are you in, this is kind of a bold question for some people, but I found I'd rather know up front, are you ready to make a decision today? And this is after my warm up. And generally, people always say, how long do you warm up with a McIntyre? I said, it varies. They're going to tell you when it's over. So you can have your talk about their background, talk about their family, talk about their job, talk about whatever, their faith, if that's what they want to talk about. And then at some point, they're going to say, so what is this all about? Or, what would you explain to us your product or whatever it is? And then I'll say, right from that point on, I'll say, great. And I want to take control of the situation. If I'm at the kitchen table, I want the wife to sit to my right and the husband to sit across the deal. Or if I'm in an office, I want to take control. It's so important to take control at that time after the warm up and ask a simple question and look them in the eye and say, if we go through this here, are you all prepared to make a decision today? And 2 things are going to happen. They're going to get really nervous and say, well, I don't know. We're just looking. We're just thinking about it. Or, yeah, we could possibly do that. Either answer is fine, because what that does, though, is it puts you in control of the next of your presentation, and they know that you're there for business. The other thing, too, is you want to create the environment to where there's no interruptions. What I used to do sometimes is if I was in the house making a sale presentation in the insurance, I would go turn off the TV, and this is back in the Stone Age, and I would take the phone and take it off the hook because I did not want that. And they would look at me kind of odd, and I would say, well, look, this is very important information, and I want 100% of your attention during this time.
It's interesting, man. So the question, it just reminded me of a technique that I use in the consulting. A lot of the sales that I do now are with clients. And so I created this technique, which it sounds almost exactly like the one you just talked about. The technique I call the yes before the yes. And it goes like this. I sit down with somebody and I go, now, I'm assuming that if we come together and I answer all your questions about this deal and we get a deal together that you really like, I'm assuming you're ready to move forward on this today. And I'd say that in the beginning because they can't say no, because you're sitting there. They can't. If they say no, then you're like, well, why are we here? And so they don't say no, so they say yes, which basically means you're getting a yes before the yes. You get your first yes, but you just started the conversation, which I really like.
That's good.
So that's really, really solid. All right, so let's do another one. And Dennis, I'll be covering a little bit more of this in our Ultimate Speaker training as well. But I want, Michael, I'd love for you to hear this. So Dennis is a speaker. So as a speaker, how do I sell myself to the event person who, in their case, actually has to go back and talk to a committee? So the decision-making board is actually over here, but he's talking to an event planner. What do you got?
Yeah, that's so good. Generally people want to see reels. They want to see where you've spoke before, see how you do those sort of things. But what I would generally say to them is say, listen, tell me what it is that they're looking for. What do they want to do? And how is it that, what is your process of elimination? And ask them, say, hey, you've seen a lot of people, you know what your client wants. What is it that they are looking for? And because I don't want to waste your time or I want to waste my time, but what I want to do is I want to deliver to make you look good, because I want to make sure that we deliver the quality speaker that you want so that they will trust you in your selection. And I think all you have to do is, I think, Dennis, is just to put it on them saying, hey, this is for you. How can I make you look good in this situation? What is it, if you will, what is it that you feel that you need to present to them so that they will take this? Now, some of them might say, well, if I narrow this down, then I'll bring you in. And that's fine too. But to sell you as a speaker, they want to see tapes, they want to see these things. But more importantly, that event planner, or whoever it is, they want to make sure that they look good. So kind of get on their side and see how you can serve them.
That's good, man. I like that. So asking them what the kind of thing that the board's looking for, and the the secondary value of that is now you have the meeting planner sort of teaming up with you, to go to the board. I really like that answer. That's solid. All right, we're going to do one more, Michael, and then I'm going to let you wrap it up, baby. So this is Mark Eschbach, the second, and I really like this question. Mark says, as a scientist, how do I sell my ideas to people? So does it change? Do the sales strategies change? What do you think about that?
Mark, such a great question. And, I've coached a lot of people and, teachers, engineers, architects. Listen, nothing gets built in this country until a sale is made. Nothing happens until a sale is made. Whether you want to build a building, whether you want to build a parking lot, whether you want to, come up with a new medicine, somebody has to make the sale and somebody has to present this. So as a scientist, it's the same exact technique. The 5-point close works on all aspects, whether you're a school teacher, whether you're, asking your fiance to marry you, or whether you've got a new scientific breakthrough that's going to eliminate the Hubble spacecraft and you can do so much better. Whatever it is, the 5-point close will work in all those aspects because number one, you're always agreeing with their objection. And all you have to do is practice. And when I first learned this, just write these things down, write them down, practice in the mirror, or nowadays you can just sit there and make a video. People hate looking at themselves. People hate listening to their own voice, but that's part of the negative self-talk that we always get because we don't realize who we sound like and what we look like because we have this mental image. Force yourself to watch your video, make your sales presentation on this video, watch it back. If you have to get a glass of wine to get through it, do it. But it's really important that you do this because that's going to be you're going to be your very worst critic. And once you master this, Mark, and you get this down, you're going to be the greatest scientist that ever walked.
It's interesting. I mean, if you look at the history of some of the best scientific discoveries, a lot of those scientists were actually great salespeople, and I don't want to get into the Tesla Edison debate, but I'll tell you,
Elon Musk,
Elon Musk is another great example. That guy is that guy. So anyway, so I really like that, and the thing to remember when it comes to science, look at the most controversial scientific debates. Those debates are not about ethereal issues. Those debates are about issues that touch people's actual lives. So we're talking, remember, even when you're talking about science, you're talking about someone. And there's always a way to take your science and directly correlate it to someone's health, to someone's vitality, to their kids' vitality, to the longevity of our planet, a whole bunch of different ways to do that. So thank you, Mark. That was very nice of you to ask that question. And he says, thank you for the advice, man. I love it.
Steve Jobs is another one.
Man, let me tell you, there's a whole study we could do on Steve Jobs. When Steve Jobs started, nobody understood what he was talking about. And by the time he got done, he was like, this is a personal computing device and a telephone and a PDA. That's how simple he got. So going back to your original point about being simple, Steve Jobs learned how to take complicated things and make them very simple. That's what made him an incredible salesperson. All right, we're out of time, man. This feels like it was about 3 minutes long. You are the man. So Michael McIntyre, I want to have you wrap us up today. What do you got for us as we head off?
Look, none of this is easy. Okay, it really isn't. But also striving is not where it's at. If you just sit there and look at and use the effort, what I always tell people is you have been given superpowers. Everybody has superpowers. We have giftings. Use those giftings. You know what they are. Don't deny them and master those superpowers. And what I always tell people in our faith is, look, you get up every day and you do the possible and then let God do the impossible. But what you want to do is stay focused on the prize. Don't get discouraged. Develop a mastermind group. Give positive affirmations. Read positive books. Watch positive, inspirational, true stories. And keep your nose to the grindstone. And listen, great things will happen for you and for your family.
Wake up. You do the possible. Let God do the impossible. I love that, man.
Come on, baby.
I love that. I'm gonna just anchor on that for a moment. That's something to walk away with today. Write it maybe on your wall or something like that. By the way, that hit me too. Remember, your job's not to do the impossible, but that also means that God's job isn't to do the possible. So you got to get up. You got to take 5 steps. You got to ask for the sale at the end of that. and grow your business because you have been given the tools by your creator to do amazing things. All right, so I've got one comment I need to put up here.
Yeah.
Michael, it says that you need to have Michael on again. So now I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to put you on the spot on the air because I know you can't say no when I ask you in front of everybody.
You're a closer, Ed. You're a closer.
So, and I'll just give you a heads up that the answer to this question is yes. I've already written down the title of our next show that we do together. It's called $1 Billion Sales Strategies Revisited or Reloaded. I think I'm going to call it Reloaded. So Michael McIntyre, would you consider coming back to the EdTalks live show maybe in the next couple weeks and hang out a little bit, dude?
Yes, I would love to. Let me just say thank you. You're such a closer, Ed. Listen, Ed, you are amazing. And I just want to let you know, you are a friend and you are incredible. And I get motivated when we hang out together. And just your story, the F-18 pilot, I was in the Air Force, and of course I was a ground pounder, but I wasn't like you. But you're amazing, and what you do out there and what you put out constantly is really incredible. And how you've got this EdTalks thing going is amazing. So congratulations. I'm honored to be on here, and you are the man, my brother. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate you too. Listen, this is EdTalks Live. We go live every day, Monday through Friday, 10 o'clock Pacific, 1 o'clock Eastern. This is the most positive place on the planet for insanely implementable ideas. Michael and I are going to hang out for the next minute or two in chat just to say hello to you and to say thank you for your time and your attendance. Listen, if you got at least one strategy out of today's show, do two things. Number one, implement it in your life today to see more income, impact, and lifestyle. Number two, click the like button below and the share button. Tell somebody else about this positive place so that we can build an amazing community of people who are off to flat out change the world. My name's Ed Rush. I'm here with my friend Michael McIntyre. We're signing off. We'll see you tomorrow for how to stop trading dollars for hours and finally get paid what you're worth. We'll talk to you soon.